Hello, hello. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are doing the mid-year book Freakout tag for 2023. It is beloved across BookTube, and I'm so happy to be doing it. I love watching these videos, so I am so excited to make mine. And fun fact, this is actually the first video that I ever made on my channel last year. So it feels very full circle moment for me. So I'm so excited to be doing this for a second time. And let's go ahead and get into these books. So I have linked the creators of this tag and the prompts down below if you would like to see them. I know there are a couple of versions of this out there in the BookTube verse. I've picked the one that I'm more familiar with. I know that there are some other questions, so let that be what it may. There are other questions out there, so you're aware of. I also have the notebook, as you can see, my handy dandy mushroom notebook, and this has all of the prompts in it so I can remember what they are, because I will not remember on my own. So let's get into this Freakout tag. Number one question, starting off with a bang, is what is your favorite book of the year? And if you watched my previous video on this channel, which is my best books of the year so far, I'll link that down below if you're interested. I have already said that my favorite book of the year is The Wall by Marlon Haushofer. This is translated from the German by Sean Whiteside, and this book is so good. I love it. I adore it. I think it's fantastic. And if this synopsis sounds good to you, I hope you read it. But it follows a woman who finds herself behind an invisible wall at a vacation lodge that she's staying at with a couple of friends. Now, the friends have gone out to dinner, and she realizes when they don't come back that she is now isolated behind this wall and is not sure what has happened, but she knows that she has to survive. So it is very slow paced. It's very detailed and intricate. It's in the format of a journal that she's keeping during her time there. And it's all about her trying to survive behind the wall. And I absolutely loved it. I think she is such a wonderful, deep, rich main character, and I loved following her. I just absolutely adored it. So that is The Wall by Marlon Haushofer. And next up, we have the best sequel that I've read in 2023, and this is going to be Assassin of Reality. I've read a couple of other sequels. The Veronica Speedwell ones are definitely going to come up later in this list, but my favorite sequel so far this year was Assassins of Reality. This is by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko, and it's translated from the Russian by Julia Maitov-Hersey, and it is published by Harper Voyager, I believe. And this book is taking up right where Vita Nostra left off. So it's a sequel to Vita Nostra. It is so good. Now, it's not as good as Vita Nostra, but I think it's close. And I just loved it. It was so nostalgic. Like, it just gave me the Vita Nostra vibes that I wanted, and I loved it for that. So I am biased and I don't care. But this book picks up right where it left off, like I said, and follows the same main character. So it's same first person perspective. It's just fantastic. It's so confusing and bizarre and dark, and I love the combination of that. But the narration is really easy to follow, and it's definitely a main character that you can root for. So if you love Vita Nostra, highly recommend picking this up. I think it will give you all of the same vibes that you loved from the first one. So that is Assassin of Reality. Now, number 3 on the prompt list is a new release you haven't read yet, but would like to. And I have a number of these. So first up, I think I have YN by Esther Yee. This wasn't originally on my radar for the year, but I've heard so many glowing reviews for it, and it's about kind of fandom. So YN standing for your name, where you would insert yourself in fan fiction. And yeah, I've heard that this is a really interesting take on modern fandom and how complicated that can truly be. So very excited to get into this one, and I'm waiting for my hold to come in from the library. So YN is definitely up there. Other ones that are up there are, let's see, this one, The Book of Eve, which I just got in June. So it's new to me, so I will be reading it soon. And this is by Carmen Buyosa, and it's translated from the Spanish by Samantha Schnee, I believe. Yes. And I cannot wait to get to this one. It's probably my most anticipated fiction release of the year. So that is that. And the other one I very much want to read is a nonfiction I haven't gotten to yet, but I also have a hold on my library for it. So that is How to Think Like a Woman. So those three are just three of the ones that came to mind the quickest, but definitely want to get to those and many, many others as well. Next up, we have number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I also have a couple for these. First one that immediately came to mind was A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro. This is getting published by Charco Press. And Claudia Pinheiro wrote Elena Knows, which many people know from last year. It was nominated for the International Booker Prize. And I loved that book. It was my second favorite book of last year, I believe, and thought it was fantastic. So I'm very excited for another Claudia Pinheiro release. So I've pre-ordered that one. Can't wait to get to it. Seems like it's going to be fantastic. And another one that I'm very excited to read is Death Valley by Melissa Broder. This comes out in November, if I'm remembering correctly. September, November, one of those. And I'll have an upcoming anticipated releases video that I think is going to come out in August for the last 4 months of the year, so it will be in that. But Death Valley by Melissa Broder. I read Milk Fed earlier this year and absolutely loved it. I'm about to read The Pisces, so it's just my year of Melissa Broder, I would say. And yeah, can't wait to get to that book. Love the cover as well. Another one I'm looking forward to is Peach Pit. This comes out in September. It's a collection of short stories that I think is all about like renegade women, or what is it? It's like weird women, dark women, something. I can't remember the tagline, but yeah, it's all kind of like dark stories about women kind of on the fringes. So I'm very excited for that. The cover is stunning. So I'm really excited for this release to come out, and I will definitely be picking up when it does. And lastly, the one that I will mention is Electric. This is an anthology that's coming out from Two Lines Press in their Calico series, which I talk about so often on my channel, I feel like, but this is going to be their newest release in that series, and it's all featuring Caribbean literature. So very excited to get to that. Love the cover, love the title, and yeah, it sounds like it's going to be right up my alley. So that is the 4th one. Again, many others, but those are the only ones I will get into for now. The next prompt that we have on the list is biggest disappointment of the year. And this one, I have to say, is House of Cotton. So this is one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I think it came out in one of those videos early on, like the first one I did of the year. And this was supposed to be a horror that was taking on kind of like race and class and all of those things. And it just really fell flat for me. Now, have there been other books that I liked less than this? Yes, but I DNF'd those books. This one I actually finished, so that's why I feel like I can put it here. I don't really talk about books that I DNF very much, so House of Cotton is kind of taking the bullet, but I just felt like this was too disjointed and had too many plot lines that were not followed through to the depth that I would have liked them to be. Some parts didn't seem believable, other parts were too stereotypical. It just all around didn't work. There's a lot of trigger warnings in it, and I just wanted things to be done a little bit better. So it wasn't for me, but yeah, I was very sad because I thought that was going to be a great one for me, and it just didn't work out. So that is House of Cotton. And next up we have the biggest surprise of the year. And I have to say my biggest surprise of the year, this is one that I read recently and will be coming out in a video very soon, but that is Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister. This is a thriller, I guess. It's like a suspenseful, kind of speculative fiction. And I know that everyone loves this, so you might be saying like, Elise, everyone already loves this, it's not a surprise. But for me, who doesn't read a lot of thrillers, I loved this and I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. I just thought the author did such a brilliant job with the premise and sort of the rules that were created within this world. And yeah, I found it fascinating and exciting and I couldn't put it down. So loved this, love how it explored relationships and how deeply impactful relationships in your life are. And it was just a joy to read. So this was definitely the biggest surprise for me, I think, so far this year. Next one on the prompt list is favorite new author, debut or new to you. And I haven't read multiples of many authors this year. The only authors that I've read multiple books from this year are who is she? Deanna Raybourn. Oh my gosh. That does the Veronica Speedwell series. I've read 3 Veronica Speedwells this year and caught up to where the series is. And then also Arthur Conan Doyle, because I'm reading through all of the Sherlock Holmes books, but neither one of those are new to me authors. I had read both of them previously, and so I can't use them. So I'm gonna have to go with people that I've only read one book from so far this year, but I tried to pick people who I know I'm going to read a second book from in this year because I liked the first book so much. So the ones that came up for me are Melissa Broder, who I've already talked about. So I read Milkfed. I'm about to start The Pisces, and I'm gonna try and pick up Death Valley. So I think she's a new favorite author for me. Again, I've only read one, so it's my best prediction at this point. Also, Annie Ernaux. So I read The Happening very recently, and I have Simple Passion on my reading list for this month. It's probably going to be the next book I pick up. So I'll be reading a second book from her and anticipating to love it. And then I would also say, because she wrote my favorite book of the year so far, Marlon Haushofer. I absolutely adore that book. I will be looking out for other things that she's previously published to see if there's anything else that I can read. So those 3 lovely ladies are probably the ones that I would say are new favorite authors for me. The next prompt that we have is newest fictional crush. And I haven't read a ton of romance this year, which is where I normally get this prompt from, the answer for this prompt, I should say. But I have been reading Veronica Speedwell, so it has to be Stoker. I love Stoker. He's so gruff, but he has the most tender heart, and he's just like going all out for Veronica. So it would definitely be him. And supposedly he's like a stone cold fox. So you know, I'm down with that too. It's Stoker as my fictional crush. My newest favorite character, I will probably have to say the lead from The Wall. So I believe she's unnamed throughout the novel. She was just so lovely. I loved all of her takes on feminism, and I loved how raw and gritty she was, and how she just like knows what has to get done, and so she does it. Like, she's not pulling any punches. She doesn't really complain. She's just getting stuff done, and I loved following her. She also has a lot of deep love for animals. Love that as well. Another character from that book, though, that I love is the dog. So the dog fucking got me. I love that dog, and there's nothing you can say that would ever make me not love that dog. I would take a bullet for that dog. So that dog is also up there on my favorite characters. And then I would also say, if I have to pick another, because you're begging me to pick one more, it would be Beatrice from The Thick and the Lean. Now that novel follows 2 different perspectives, and I love Rieko as well, but Beatrice had a special place in my heart. I think she did such a good job of representing someone who is like coming out of an eating disorder and entering into recovery, and just loving herself in a changing body now that she's in recovery, and being a freaking badass chef at the same time. So yeah, I loved her. I thought her character was really dynamic and great. And yeah, definitely encourage you to read that book if she sounds interesting to you. So the next one we have is a book that made me cry. And there are a couple books that made me cry this year, but I will say The Wall. I've talked about it so many times this year already, but The Wall definitely made me cry. if you read it, you know, I cried multiple times in that book. I mean, it's just a sad book, right? Like it's about survival. It's a sad book. So I cried in that. I cried in the other The Wall. This book, same title, but entirely different book. I cried in this book as well at the very end. There was a very touching scene at the end. Definitely cried. And I read those two kind of back to back. So there's a lot of crying that month. And then the other one that I will mention here is Magma. So I read Magma much earlier in the year. It is all about abuse. So it's very, very heart-wrenching and horrific. So know that going in. There's lots of trigger warnings, but I cried during that as well. It's a very like nuanced and apt description of what it's like to be in an abusive relationship. And she's just so in it, and it's really hard to read, but yeah, that one also got me. So yeah, Magma made me cry as well. And next one is a book that made me happy, and there are a few things here as well. So I'll say first and always the Veronica Speedwell series. I adore this series. It's so fantastic. I will continue to read it. It's very humorous and just has a bright spot in my heart. So Veronica Speedwell, and I read 3 this year. Also Dog Songs by Mary Oliver, the poetry collection. It just got me, like, I love my dog so much. And yeah, it was just nice to get to read about somebody else's connection to their dog and nature and how they better understand humanity through their relationship with their dog. So that was fantastic. Made me very happy. And lastly, I'll say Spy Family. So I read the latest installment in Spy Family, which I think is the 9th one, and that always makes me happy as well. Ragtag family of a spy, a telepath, and an assassin. And I loved it. It was a great addition into Spy Family. All right, getting close to the end, we have the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. And I have a couple for these. So firstly, the Book of Eve. I adore this cover. I say that every time I show it. It's a vulva. I love a vulva cover. So this is definitely one of my favorite covers of the year. I'll also say, I'm reaching over here to get them, Cold Nights of Childhood, I think is just a lovely, simplistic cover. I love sort of like the line illustration of the person and then the pop of color with the blue and the gold down here. I just think it's beautiful. So that one definitely as well. And then I'll also say Who Killed My Father. This cover is stunning. I love the blue gradient on the cover with the sliver of an older man in the middle. I think that's fantastic. And this one is less like, I wouldn't say beautiful, but I think this cover is really cool. And that is Shit Cassandra Saw. Like, that is such a cool, funky cover, and I really enjoy it. So those are 4 of my favorite covers of the year so far. Next one is my favorite review that I've done this year. And I don't have a Bookstagram or anything like that. I just have the YouTube channel. So for me, it's my favorite video that I've created. And mine is definitely my 2 books, 1 title video that is on The Wall and The Wall that I talked about a little bit earlier. So one, this was just fun because I loved both of those books. And it's always a good time when you're really loving the books that you're reading. And in that video, I sort of talk about not just a review of both of the books, but the title integration for both of the books and like compare and contrast the title integration. And I really liked doing that. It was such a fascinating way for me to think about the books in particular. And I've been wanting to start that series for a while. So I'm very happy that I started it. I'll link that video down below if you're interested in watching it. And there will be another one in the series coming out a little bit later in the year. So definitely that one for me. And last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Like I have been, I'm going to give a handful of answers here, but let me reach way back. So a couple of these are 5-star predictions, so I feel like I need to get to them. There is A Cowardly Woman No More by Ellen Cooney, and this is a 5-star prediction. There is In Vitro by Isabel Zapata, translated by Robin Myers, another 5-star prediction. Then there's a backlist 5-star prediction in The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Filia. And then 2 other books that are not 5-star predictions, but I have just been eyeing so much and I really want to get to them, is Case Study by Graham McCrae Burnett and W3, which is by Betty Howland. So those ones I definitely want to get to before the end of the year. So I am going to try and prioritize them. So those ones are the next go-tos. And that is it, friends. That is my mid-year freakout tag. Please let me know what you thought of any of the books that I've talked about, if you're interested in them, if you've read them, anything like that. And definitely let me know your favorite book of the year and any other answers to the questions that I have in the description down below. So I will see you all in the next one.